like to call to order the North Aurora Village Board meeting of Monday, October 2nd, 2017, and we'll open with silent prayer and meditation. Please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. The clerk call a roll, please.
Mayor Berman,
Here.
Trustee Gafino.
Here.
Trustee Lowry.
Here.
Trustee Curtis. Here. Trustee Carroll.
Here.
And Trustee Gately.
Here.
Oh, good evening. I have a number that have signed up for audience comments. We'll take them as they've signed. Robert Bowline. Is that, you come to state your name and address and,
My name is Robert Bowling. I'm president of the Summerwinds Condominium Association. I live at 214 East Victoria Circle. I have a complaint. Several months ago, on the exit of Hidden Creek going out to Oak Street, somebody used a white spray can and painted lines and arrows. And I contacted the city, and they weren't too concerned about it. I said, well, if you don't take care of it and remove it, it's going to escalate. And I had a police report on that. And today I came to the city, and then I went to the police department, and I talked to a policeman. I had to wait, and he came up. I had to go outside and talk to him in his car. He took my name, my phone number, my address, and said he would look at the white lines. I never heard from him. He said I would hear from him. I didn't. If it's not taken care of, it's going to escalate further. We now have white lines painted where cars should park on the entire complex, all of East Victoria Circle and all of Hidden Creek. What's next if they don't park the way somebody wants them to in between those lines? Are they going to spray paint the cars next time? If they do all this, we don't know what they're going to do in the future. I think it should be taken care of, and I don't think it's something that should be taken care of lightly. Painting arrows and painting white lines down the middle of a street on an exit is not a safety thing to do unless it's the city to do it. And painting lines on the city street, I call that vandalism. So I would like something done about it. We have spent millions and millions of dollars on our complex, bringing it up to where it is today. We're just finished spending, next spring will be the total of over $3 million just for the roofing on it. We spent over $600,000 replacing wood porches that were unsafe because the city okayed them, and we replaced them with cement ones that were safe. Many, many things we have done like that to keep our complex up. And to see something like this done is very discouraging.
I have a question right here.
Yeah.
So are they painting parking spaces or dividing, in the center?
While the exit is a white line down the center of the street going to Oak Street. But what they did last Saturday night, they just spaced off parking spots with white lines.
Do you know who did it?
No, I don't.
So it just someone took it upon themselves to start marking
Yeah.
it's on the street?
Yep.
well, I think that we've got more information that we can talk about, but you're right, no one should be painting anything on the village sidewalks or streets. That's like putting graffiti out there, so maybe it's not, maybe they're not swear words or anything, but it's still graffiti. But I think, Steve, you've had an opportunity to work on this today.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I was made aware of this earlier today, and we actually talked about it at our staff meeting this morning with the police chief. John Laskowski and I actually drove the subdivision. We saw the markings. Basically, what we did is I sent an email out to the entire HOA board and to the property management company and basically we're going to set up a meeting, get in a room, try to understand all the parking issues. John and I have some concerns that some of the markings may actually make sense, but obviously we don't want anyone putting markings on our streets for the simple fact that if they're not done to code or if they're not done to the MUTCD that we follow, it could create an unsafe situation for drivers who are following them, thinking that we did it temporarily or whatnot, and that's a acceptable traffic pattern. So we do plan to meet with them soon. I don't have a date yet, but I'm guessing it's going to be in the next couple of weeks. The police department is aware of the markings themselves, so Chief Fisher will discuss that with his staff as well. And moving forward, I think we're going to come to a resolution where there's probably a few things that we might want to tweak in that subdivision to help the traffic flow a little bit.
The parking problem is people do not park in their garage. And they use the garage for storage, and they want to park on the city street. And that's their problem. It's not the city's problem, it's not the association's problem, it's the owner's problem.
Do you have any cameras or anything that, right here, sir? Do you have any cameras or anything that would help the police in trying to see who might have done it?
No.
So
I have pictures of what they did, but I don't have anybody doing it.
So is the whole development done, all the streets? I mean, all of them?
All of Hidden Creek and all of East Victoria, they overlook Fox Hill, which is a very short street. They probably didn't think they were in a hurry and went right by it.
Yeah, that's not,
All
that's not,
Well, thank you very much, Robert.
Okay, thank you.
Number two, Andre Solowski?
Pronounced Smith.
Pardon? Smith?
Pronounced Smith.
That's like Gately, right?
that's right.
Our daughters married Wilson, Haynes, and Smith. We have 3 daughters. I'm Andrea Silkowski, and I am secretary on the Homeowners Association for Summer Wind. And I attended a previous meeting, and I did not know the protocol. I spoke to John Laskowski after the meeting and introduced myself. The parking is an issue. As Bob said, it is definitely people not parking in their garages. I understand we have no basements. We're 284 units, and people use their garage for storage. I have several homeowners that tell me they rent storage units to store their excess materials. As far as the parking, it's not ever going to be resolved. I would love to have it resolved. I moved to Summer Wind because of the community and North Aurora, which I love. And I've told John and the chief of police that at the last meeting I attended, what I have come to say is the lines and the arrows that exit Summer Wind onto Oak Street are definitely an asset to the community. I've had so many neighbors tell me it's streamlines getting out in the morning when they go to work because they're not waiting for somebody that's blocking the entire lanes to turn right or to turn left. And it has moved traffic along. I have observed it while walking the dog or while exiting Summer Wind myself. So the parking is a problem. I am not in favor of the parking lines, and I don't call it vandalism, I just call it somebody was frustrated.
I suppose, yeah,
So
yeah.
that's my push.
Well, I don't think we're interested in going after any vandalism or anything like that. We're interested in getting a solution to the problem, and I think
Exactly.
the points that you brought up are very good, and I think that Mr. Bosco and Mr. Laskowski, in their look, I think they determined that quite likely the arrows, the direction on going on to Oak Street might be worthwhile. So I think that they're going to look into that and come up with the feasibility.
Thank you.
Yeah, okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. Carolyn Bird Salazar.
No, I thought I had to sign in, I didn't have any.
All right. And Dan, same thing? All right. Very good. Any other trustee comments that aren't down? Administrators, oh, trustee comments, excuse me,
Yeah.
committee.
Person.
Audience trustee comments.
We have a.
Another guy.
You have someone
I'm sorry. I didn't know I needed to sign in. Oh, okay. Good. Just state your name and address and,
Sure. My name is Charles Matus. I live at 2772 Berman Road. I have a new patio that I'm looking to have replaced at my house. I originally had a patio put in back in 2003, 2004 timeframe. When I called, I was told that I did not need a permit at that time, that you only needed one for a deck. So as I'm trying to replace the exact same footprint for the patio, I called back and asked, do I need a permit? They said yes. I filled out the paperwork. I was then told that there's an easement on either side of the property, 7.5 feet, and that where we currently have the walkway would not be allowed. Essentially, we have approximately 10.5 feet on that side of the house. In order to put in a walkway, it would be right on top of the side of our house. We already have landscaping in place. The walkway has been in place for about 13 to 14 years. I have open common space on that side of the lot. There's a bike path, so it's about 100 feet between houses. I do not have any utilities that go through that side of the property. I called Julie. I have pictures. I've spoken with Mike Toth about the issue. Very good guy. I talked to Laura Curtis about this situation, and she asked me to talk to Mike and let him know I was going to be here. Tried to call him earlier today. It looks like he's on vacation this week.
yes.
So basically, he laid it out for me that there's a process I'd have to go through, and there's two different options. They both cost money. One's like $500. The other one would be probably $200 to $300. When I look at everything, I would like to try to get through all the red tape and have my walkway replaced. So I just wanted to kind of present my situation. Ms. Curtis had notified me that there was a similar situation in the past with a tree house, I believe it was, that had a similar situation with easement that the board was able to look at and see favorably for the homeowner.
Well, that particular case went through our planning zoning board for a solution, so that would be the proper avenue to go. I think that's the way we handle these. They're all exceptions to the rule, and when someone's asking for that, it has to go through a special.
Steve, can you explain why an existing patio is now no longer suitable? If it's just replacing the exact same footprint that approval was given, 15 years ago?
Sure, it's possible that the approval was put in, or that it was put in there and it was always supposed to be not permitted, and that it was done by error. So it's possible that the information he was given was in error 15 years ago, and the code basically says that you can't, not that it's grandfathered in, but just because it was wrong once doesn't mean it's wrong twice. So that could be the issue. I'd have to look at it with Mike, who's out of town this week, but the process that they're talking about is the variance process, which is, would go through the planning commission as well. And there would be exceptions in those cases where you look at building into an easement and if it is a real issue or not, and then the commission would vote on it and it would eventually go to the village board for approval or not. But I'd have to know more about the situation to fully understand what could have happened. And Mike's gone, but my business card is downstairs right by the front door, so you're welcome to pick that card up and we can talk maybe tomorrow about it.
Okay, because I did look through the ordinance laws, and I did find some things in there that kind of said that if your house abuts against another house, and there's certain verbiage in there that kind of states that, I'm not going to quote it and go word for word, but basically, it's not always required,
Sure. And
is what I got out of it.
one other thing that could have happened is we had a major zoning change on January 1st of 2013. So what could have been allowed by the zoning code 10 years ago, basically it's grandfathered in to some extent. If you did it at one point when it was okay to do it, it doesn't mean that when you go back to do it, if the code's changed, that you can just automatically do it again. Basically, you're in place for a while, but once that zoning code changes, any changes to it might re-trigger the process again. But that's okay. Once again, that's why we have the variance process. So this is something that we do hear residents with these types of situations.
So the variance process is one of those things that Mike had referenced, and
Yes.
basically it would be like $500. It's essentially, I'm going to spend $500 to go through the process when I can already see that there's nothing, the way that the ordinance is written states that it's for drainage and for utilities. There's no utilities on that side of the property. There's no issue with drainage. I've had the walkway there for 14 years, and there's no house abutting up against me.
Sure. And is that lot next to you, is that a future lot to be built on?
It's common ground. There's a bike path there.
So, two quick things. One is, just because there's not utilities in the easement now doesn't mean there won't be. We have a company, for instance, right now, literally putting infrastructure in every household in town, and eventually it'll be at your house too. So they could be putting utilities in that easement. We just don't know, because they go through a process, they get approval, maybe that company hasn't been here before. So we do have that company, Metronet, coming in now. So those are why those easements are always there in case something in the future happens. Second of all, we have drainage issues. When I say drainage issues, residents have drainage issues all the time because a neighbor changes the grade of a property or puts something in, could cause an adverse effect. We just want to make sure that it's not going to have a long-term effect.
That's a moot point, right? Because it's been there for 14 years. No drainage issues, no utilities. I understand the point about the future utility that could be put in place. So you're telling me there's no other way around this?
What I'm saying is, I honestly don't have any information. It's the first I've heard of it. So I'd like to sit down with you, and especially Mike, because he deals with these all the time, and see what we can do in the code. Maybe there is some kind of grandfather clause. I don't know off the top of my head. I'd have to look at that.
Okay. All right. Thank you very much.
You know, the reason to have it go through the procedure is so that we do it the same all the time, and so we don't treat you differently than we do the next guy or the one that came before you. So that's the reason for going through a standardized procedure. But there's also always, it's not black and white, there's always other things that come into consideration. So I think with Mr. Bosco and Mr. Toth can get together and see what we can come up with.
Yeah, I understand, because then it would set precedent that others could use, and it
Yeah.
could be an issue. So I get that. I just try and avoid all the red tape.
Understand. Thank you, Charles.
When would I just work with you off?
Yeah,
okay.
absolutely. So my card, all of the staff has their cards right at the front door when you go down into the lobby, right by where the counter is. So my card's there. Mike Toth will be back from vacation next week. So when he's back, we could set up a meeting. You can come in and we'll sit down with you and actually walk through your case.
Okay, sounds good.
All right.
Thank you very much.
Very good. Any other, good, now I can follow my agenda. Trustee comments? Consent agenda.
Move to approve.
Second.
Any discussion? Clerk, call the roll, please.
Trustee Curtis?
Yes.
Trustee Lowry?
Yes.
Trustee Cofino?
Yes.
Trustee Carroll?
Yes.
Trustee Gately?
Yes.
All right, under new business, item number 1, Mr. Hannah.
Thank you. Item number 1 is a resolution authorizing village membership in the Northern Illinois Health Insurance Initiative, NEHI, which is a subpool of the Intergovernmental Personnel Benefit Cooperative, or IPPC. This was discussed at the last committee of the whole meeting, with the village considering joining IPPC for the purpose of providing health insurance benefits to employees. Staff did a lot of research on this and feel that, with 130 different municipalities, that this co-op self-insurance pool will be a long-term good financial fit for the village and for the employees and offer more stability in future years. So the attached resolution would authorize membership in that pool and authorizing signing of all the necessary contracts and agreements.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Discussion. Clerk, call the roll, please.
Trustee Carroll?
Yes.
Trustee Gately?
Yes.
Trustee Curtis?
Yes.
Trustee Lowry?
Yes.
Trustee Cofino?
Yes.
And item number 2, Mr. Bosco.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. At the committee of the whole meeting, at the last one on September 18th, we talked about removing some of our business licenses as a way to become more business friendly. We had a lot of little kind of ticky-tack ones, if you will, that we found in the code that we thought we'd get rid of, like things for like gumball machines and vending machines. What we did find also while we're going through it since the last time we talked was we obviously have a garbage contract that we go out for, and we do a franchise agreement with them, but we found a code that actually was outdated from 1966 about scavenger licensing that obviously was not in tune with our current practices and hasn't been in tune with our current practices for decades. So this is not only repealing some of those business licenses, but also getting rid of the older section of the garbage scavenger license code so that it now falls in place to what we currently practice. Once again, this does, the garbage company still, the ones who provide commercial service in town, still do have to get a license annually with us.
Motion approved.
Second.
Discussion. Clerk, call the roll, please.
Trustee Gately?
Yes.
Trustee Carroll?
Yes.
Trustee Curtis?
Yes.
Trustee Lowry?
Yes.
Trustee Cofino?
Yes.
All right, item number 3, Mr. Mikowski.
Thank you, Mayor. On September 26th, the village received 12 bids for the tree replacement program. The lowest bidder was Acres Group. They came in at $38,217. It's $21,783 less than our budget, so we got some good prices this year. The tree planting program is going to include 180 trees, and they've been grouped into 5 different categories to provide different species throughout town. So we're going to diversify the trees that we do have in the stock. So at this time, staff is recommending the approval and award of the bid to Acres Group.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Discussion.
How many trees are left after this 180?
I don't know the answer to that. I'll let you know.
Well, hang on a second, I just want to clarify. Are you the 180 trees, how many are left of what? Ash trees, or? We're pretty much caught up, so I was actually writing a note to bring up in my report. Our current replacement list is 184 trees. We have 180 being replaced right now, so we'll just replace the last 4 probably in-house this fall. But I wanted to point out that's how good our tree replacement program has been. We're at a point now where we're virtually caught up to every tree, and as we said to the board, when we were replacing the emerald ash borer trees, that once we caught up, our pledge was that we were going to work to get a tree in within the 6 months, whether it be the next spring or the next fall. We want to get a tree in once one's taken out. So residents don't have to wait more than a few months to get their trees back.
Good. Thanks.
Further discussion? Clerk, call the roll, please.
Trustee Lowry?
Yes.
Trustee Cofino?
Yes.
Trustee Curtis?
Yes.
Trustee Gately?
Yes.
Trustee Carroll?
Yes.
And item number 4, Mr. Bosco.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Item number 4 is basically a housekeeping item. we have a North Aurora Days committee that's been practicing for a long time and doing a great job between the volunteers of the community that sit on it, Mark Gaffino, who chairs the committee as a representative to the board, and then the staff members here who participate in its planning and whatnot to make sure that it's taken, that it actually comes to fruition. That being said, we were looking at our village code. The village adopted a code years ago, and we wanted to basically amend the code to align it more with the practices of how the actual committee not only works right now, but to give it a little bit of structure so that we can ensure there's always going to be a good core of people that are appointed to that committee so that we know we're not going to lose turnover volunteers just leaving, and then all of a sudden you have to find out, okay, who's going to plan this event? This person decided not to volunteer this year. That being said, I outlined some of the list of changes that were in the ordinance for revision, and that's what's in front of you today is a revision to the North Aurora Days Committee code in our municipal code to allow for those changes.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Discussion. Clerk call the roll, please.
Trustee Curtis?
Yes.
Trustee Lowry?
Yes.
Trustee Gafino?
Yes.
Trustee Carroll?
Yes.
Trustee Gately?
Yes.
That's our new business. I have no old business under village president reports. North Aurora Days committee appointments. You know, we've been very happy with our North Aurora Days. It gets better and better every year. I think the volunteerism is great. We really couldn't do it without the people that have been involved in it. So with that, I'd like to appoint several to our North Aurora Days committee. And first would be Mark Gaffino as our committee chairman. And Mark would also be the liaison between the village board and the committee. So we want to do all these all together, I guess, rather than approve them one at a time. Number two, I'd like to appoint Doug Botkin as a committee member, Sarah Deer as a committee member, Kim Hager as a committee member, and Jessica Watkins as a committee member. And those are the five that I submit to you tonight for members of our North Aurora Days committee. I ask for a motion to approve those appointments.
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion of any nature? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? So be it. That's all I have. Trustee comments. Mr. Bosco.
Thank you. Just one quick item tonight. Just wanted to remind the board that our local government 101 class is starting October 12th. And we ended up with a little over 20 people signed up for the class, so we're looking forward to it. I had a couple people ask about it today, so we might get a few more stragglers in at the end. But we're looking forward to doing it from the 12th till it'll be about mid-November when it's done.
We can sit in on that if we'd like, can we not?
Yeah.
All right. Okay, attorney's report.
No report?
Fire district not here. Community development. Mr. Toth is not here. Finance, Bill?
No report, just a reminder, though, we will be having a finance committee meeting next Monday.
All right. Police, chief?
No report, sir.
Public Works, John?
No report.
We have no executive session at this point. I would entertain a motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? So be it. Our committee of the whole meeting will be starting shortly. I'd like to call to order the committee of the whole meeting of Monday, October 2nd, 2017. Clerk, call the roll, please.
Mayor Berman?
Here.
Trustee Gafino?
Yes, here.
Trustee Lowry?
Here.
Trustee Curtis?
Yes.
Trustee Carroll?
Here.
And Trustee Gately?
Here.
Any trustee comments? Number one item for discussion is a liquor license classification. And Mr. Bosco?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Item number one is one of those issues that comes up from time to time. We have salons in town, or most of you will probably know that if you go to a salon, there's a good chance that they might offer you a glass of wine. We've had that issue come up. In our goal to be business friendly, one of the things we thought of is, well, we can't allow it because we don't have a liquor license that allows it. So let's create a liquor license, bring it to the board for their review and see if you like what we have. So basically, that's where we're starting tonight. We have a Class L liquor license that would allow wine to be sold, beer and wine to be sold at a salon or a store that has a salon included inside of it. And in the case of, if it was allowed at a store that has a salon, it would have to be held in that area where the salon services are given. This license specifically reaches out to basically people doing salon, hairdresser, beautician, manicuring, pedicuring, and barbershop type services. One of the other things that we put in there is that you have to be receiving the service at the barbershop or the salon to actually be able to purchase the liquor. You can't just be someone who's there because your buddy's getting a haircut, so you thought you could go with him and hang out and drink beer while he was in the chair. So that being said, we also set the price very low at about $100 because this is kind of like a supplementary type thing. It isn't like they're making their income off of liquor. This is more of a service that they're providing to enhance their experience in the salon. What I will say is there are a lot of places that probably give the liquor to people, and I've been told several times by our village attorney that that's not actually permissible by state law. So they have to essentially charge for the liquor, which is why they need the liquor license to be able to distribute that to the public. And now the pricing of that we have no control over, but they in fact are supposed to be charging for that fee, for that wine or beer. Kevin, did I get that one right, or?
Yeah, just, it's state law. You can't give it away in connection with commercial activity.
Can you include it in the price of the haircut or the?
You can. You should break out somewhere, how much is attributed to the cost, but you could, buy a combination of a haircut with a beer, and it just, somewhere it has to be broken out how much that beer is.
We're getting rid of shave and a haircut. It's beer and a haircut now.
Right.
I assume they have to be insured for it and certified tips trained and everything.
Right.
Oh, yeah.
They still have to follow all of our provisions of our liquor code. It's just creating a class within that code.
So like the next place would be the car dealership, so they'll want to enhance your
So
experience, so.
it's funny you say that because we actually, that neighboring town to us does have some provisions for retail stores to have those types of events or special events. Now, technically, we can have, so I'll just use
Is
mechanics.
this a special event, or is this going to
Yeah.
be anytime?
No, what I'm going to say is this is any time that a service is offered. What I'm
Yeah.
saying is right now, if a mechanic store wanted to do that, they technically can go through our special event liquor license, and they can have
Yeah,
a
but
company that has a liquor license actually serve it via catering, so to speak.
Well,
But they wouldn't be able to sell it as part of their service package.
I think it's a great idea. I mean, I know a lot of communities that do it. I think Naperville does that I've been to. I've had a pedicure and a glass of wine. I mean, I think it's a great idea. I think it's going to really help our salons and our nail and hair places. The other thing I look at, I know in Batavia now, Karen Hollis Jewelers, they built a bar and they were able to incorporate that. Are we going to specifically allow them to do something like that, where they could build, a bar area, have events, not related to?
So
There.
that specific issue was discussed. That's kind of where I was alluding to when I said a neighboring town has a retail business that does that. That being said, it hasn't come up yet. So, I mean, now that's why it's at COW. If that's something the board would like us to look at, I think that's fine. We can look at that. The salon was only because this is a more common one that the staff felt that this one was definitely an easy one where I felt, knowing the board's business-friendly attitude, that this was probably one that would be, we can get it done quickly and get it in the books. And literally, we got a call like a week or two ago from one of the salons in town. So we can call them back in 2-3 weeks and be like, okay, we're actually creating this, so you can have this up and running soon. The other one I thought might take a little more conversation. I'm obviously open to that right now, so I don't know where we would limit it, and I'd have to look closer at Batavia's rules on K. Hollis, because I don't know if the board's intention is, like Mr. Gaffino said, do we want every retail business to have that ability, and what are the provisions? And honestly, the good news is since Kevin's the attorney for the city of Batavia, he probably knows that liquor code better than I do. So if you want to specifically talk about Kay Hollis and how they do theirs.
Yeah, I think it might be helpful to put it all into a little context. The state has one retail liquor license. And then there's a special use license, which is like Raimundo's, who can get a license to bring alcohol to an event and sell it. There's a special event license that allows, like North Aurora Days, a nonprofit to, sell liquor at an event. And there's a few other licenses, like a caterer license and a brewery license, et cetera. But really, there's kind of one retail liquor license. We control on the local end who is eligible for a retail liquor license. So this would be a form of that, one state retail liquor license. They'd have to go get the same liquor license that a bar would have to get, basically. But we carve out, what are the parameters for the licenses that we will allow locally. And up till now, we didn't have a license that a salon would get, so we had someone inquire, and we talked about it and created one. That's what happened with Kay Hollis in Batavia, is that they had this idea that they wanted to do things like that. And the city said, okay, well, we'll work with you, we'll create a license. The conversation becomes, what are the limits on that? If you just said, anyone that has their door open to the public can get a liquor license, come on in, well, do you want dentists having liquor license and lawyers having liquor licenses? And I mean, what are the parameters? And so I think the approach in Batavia has been, and the approach that we've had is, okay, well, we'll create one for the, we have an interest, we'll create one for that interest. And if there's more interest, we'll consider it. And that's kind of the attitude that Steve's had, and that's the attitude that Batavia's had, and it seems to have worked. I don't know, you're probably not getting your door knocked down by people wanting liquor licenses, but that...
No, just like I said,
Not for that, no.
just the salons. They've been the only ones who've really reached out.
But, I mean, maybe we should, Garrett, we've got specific businesses that might be unique to North Aurora. We got tattoo parlors and massage parlors that I can think of that provide personal type service like that might be included in this list.
But they haven't inquired.
They haven't inquired,
Right.
but
They could take it by case by case.
Yes.
Yeah, I think we should take it case by case.
You could take case by case. I mean, if a
It makes
salon,
sense for the salons and things, but,
Is it-
for example, a car dealership or,
no, I'm talking about like personal service type stuff, like a tattoo parlor. You might actually need a shot of whiskey to get a tattoo on your arm, just to, or a massage, that personal service type where a product isn't sold, but it's more of a personal service. But I'm fine with case by case. I think it's kind of silly though, as this word gets out, I would assume more and more people are going to want it.
The good thing is we should get a reduced legal fees anyway because he's gone through it before. So.
I did this one much faster.
Okay.
I better read it again. It might say City of Batavia on it.
No, ours is
Do we
different.
have any other comments, discussions, or any other ideas? Excuse me.
I like the case-by-case idea and see what develops. I mean,
I would note that this is different than what Batavia has, because Batavia's is for like standalone salons, and this one would allow an area of salon within a larger store.
yeah.
So Batavia doesn't have that, so
Sure.
this is unique.
So the example in North Aurora would be JCPenney. They have a salon
Yes.
within the store, but it's in a
They
specific
also have a
section.
jewelry department, too.
They do.
All right, any other discussion of that? All right, you got your information you need?
I do.
Good enough. We have an executive session to review minutes, and I need a motion to go to executive session, which we will not be coming back.
motion to go to executive session.
second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? We are going to executive session. Thank you, the audience, and